everyone, it's Emily here from Peachtree Crafts, and today we have episode 3 of my 2023 reading album. So if you haven't seen the previous episodes, I will link those down below so that you can get caught up. But basically what I'm doing here is I am scrapbooking or making a mini album of all of the books that I've read so far. My goal for 2023 is to read 33 books, and currently it is towards the end of June, and I'm on book number 15. So this series goes in order as well. So this, I believe, is the 6th book that I've read this year, and it's called Conjure Women. And I read this one for Black History Month. The main character, she is a kind of like a healer in the small town and the small area that she lives in. And this book takes place like right after the Civil War has ended. So even though slaves were granted freedom and they were no longer like enslaved, a lot of them didn't really have anywhere to go, so they would continue to work on the farms and the places where they were already kind of like living. So that's how this book is. It takes place on the plantation that they were living, but it's them kind of trying to find like new life and what their lives are going to look like now that everything is gone. The property that their owner, I guess, lives on gets burned down during the Civil War, and so now they don't really have anything to like work on because that whole area is burned. So one of the things that happens is that a lot of them have children, I guess because, they didn't have a whole lot of other things to do. And she is the town healer, so she's responsible for a lot of that. But when the babies all of a sudden start dying, like very suspicious and mysteriously, she gets blamed for a lot of it. They call her a conjure woman, which her mother was. She had all kinds of spells and potions that she kept. And so yeah, the main character deals with, like these accusations, but she also wants to find healing within her town. And yeah, it was really, I feel like even though this was a fiction book, it was very historic. And I really did want to learn more about what that time of life looked like for really the South in general, because obviously they just lost like a major war. So how do you come back from that, So this book was very interesting, and I felt like it was historical in that sense that I could tell the author did a lot of research about the areas that they lived in and, what people were kind of doing, especially like in regards to healing, since the main character was a healer. So she had to look up all kinds of like herbs and different like at-home remedies for things. So yeah, very cool. I didn't totally love it. I felt like the story kind of dragged on a little bit. There's a lot of parts to it, as you could probably tell just from like the synopsis that I've mentioned. So yeah, it dragged on a bit for me, and I felt like there were certain things that could have been better. Like I really enjoyed the magical aspect and like kind of the witchcraft that was involved, and I think that if that was incorporated a little bit more, it would have made what she put into the book a little bit more believable. But it was just like kind of every once in a while, and the main character wasn't that sure of herself, like she wasn't confident in what she was doing, so it also made it a little bit more like skeptical to me of like, oh, okay, so does this mean that maybe she is causing deaths? I don't know, but yeah, I don't want to give too much away. So on this page, I wanted to add some journaling, but I wanted it to be a little bit different than just putting like a piece of paper on the 4x6 card. So I added a little craft colored pocket here, and then I found a tag that I already had from just like from my stash, and I was able to write on the tag. I added a little bit of baker's twine to it, and then that fit inside the pocket. So if you want to look at the journaling for it, you do have to pull the tag out, like the whole entire, you have to pull the 4x6 out, and then you have to pull the tag out of the pocket. So it's kind of like a lot of steps, but really this album is just for me. It's not really for like, a whole bunch of people to come over and look at my album or anything. Like, I know my husband will probably look at it because he enjoys reading and we read a lot of the same books, but other than that, it's just for me, and I wanted to make it decorative and functional at the same time. So that's just what I went with. And here I am adding some chipboard. If you guys watch episode 1, you'll see all of the stuff that I'm using for this album. Honestly, most of it is just stuff from my stash that I've just been meaning to use up and I have kind of been like hoarding, I guess. So some of it is the Dear Lizzie She's Magic collection, but then I'm also mixing in some old like Paige Evans chipboard, and there's even some Amy Tangerine and some Vicky Boutin that you'll see on the next page. But yeah. So the paper that I'm using here, so that yellow paper is actually Felicity Jane. That was when they did like their closeout sale, which is so sad. You can't purchase kits from them anymore. So I got a bunch of their regular colored cardstock, and then the rainbow paper on the other side is from a Dear Lizzie collection, but I think it's the She's Good one, or She's All Good, I think. But the collection She's All Good and then She's Magic. Yeah, those are very similar. I don't think that's what the other name is, but anyways, they're very similar in terms of like color and some of the icons, so it's really easy to find papers that match the She's Magic collection. So I'm just using some stickers here. I'm adding some foam tape, and then I'm going to put these little gemstone stickers behind that just to give it a little bit of sparkle, since these have like a little bit of a sheen to them, and tie them all together. I really didn't know what to do on the yellow side of this. Like, I wanted that book to be, and the book cover to be in the middle, but then after I put it on there, I was like, well, I don't know what to add to the yellow, so I just left it blank for now. I think I do add some enamel dots to the side, but I might go in later and maybe just like add a little bit more journaling on the side, or I guess I could also write what date that I read the book. That's something that I want to go in and do throughout the album, not just on this page, but add the dates that I read everything. So that is the first spread, and now I am working on the back spread. So whenever you're watching the previous spread, you could see I got a little bit mixed up with these papers because I added tape and then I didn't have anything to stick on top of it. So I just kind of threw those papers together all of a sudden. So that's why this one looks a little bit like kind of similar to the other one, is because I had to do something with the tape on the back. So, but luckily I feel like these colors match really well. And this book is called Memories of My Melancholy Whores, and this is by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. So yeah, a little controversial just even from the title. But if you've ever read Gabriel Garcia Marquez, he is a Spanish writer, so a lot of his books are translated, but he is phenomenal. He's really good. He is actually the one that wrote the book Love in the Time of Cholera, which is a popular classic, and another one that I've read by him is Chronicle of a Death Foretold, which is one of my top favorite books. It's really, really good. I read that one in college for a literature class, and I've loved it ever since. So I wanted to start reading some more of his works, and this one was very similar to Chronicle of a Death Foretold, very similar themes of like, you know, what gives a person desire, what do we learn from love, I think is kind of a big question. This book is very strange. It definitely won't be everybody's cup of tea. It takes place in, you know, I think I would say like the 1800s, maybe late 1800s, early 1900s in like Spain. And that's just me inferring based on some of the stuff that I read. But yeah, so he is a very popular writer. He makes a lot of money. But all his life, he feels like he's never really had time for like a wife or someone to love. And he's never really wanted that for himself anyways. So you can see I stuck tape down on this and then I didn't have anywhere to put it because the back of that paper that I was going to be writing on was really wobbly and I knew it would mess up my handwriting. So I just stuck it on this little plastic sheet here so that I could journal, and then I'll stick it back on. But anyways, he's never really wanted a wife or really cared about love. He just ends up searching for what he considers like romance and I guess love to him in these prostitutes that he pays for. But things change one day whenever he calls for I guess it's his 90th birthday. He's very old, and he asks for a prostitute, but the one that she gives him and sets him up, he goes into the room and she's sleeping. And he actually, at first he gets really mad because she won't wake up. And then he sees her again later to like make up for that previous time, I guess. And she is still sleeping. But he comes to really like that about her and like the innocence that she has. And he kind of makes up this story about who she is in his head and like falls in love with almost like this character that he's made, but not the actual real person, because obviously he doesn't know anything about this girl. So yeah, it was kind of interesting from that part. I think that maybe he was trying to make the main character seem a little bit more endearing, and really it was just kind of like a pervy thing to do and kind of weird. But I don't think that was lost on the author. Like, I think the author knew that people would think that about the character too. So yeah, that one was pretty good. I think I gave that one 3 out of 5 stars or 4 out of 5. I can't remember. And now I'm working on a full page spread, and I did this one. It's kind of funny. So I decided to make this one a full page spread because I knew I had a lot of journaling and a lot I wanted to say about this book. This is probably one of my favorites that I've read this year. Besides Three Women, I think this one's probably my second favorite book. It was so good. And I got this one from Becca, and she is Inspiring Create on Instagram. We did like a little book swap, and she also has a reading page called Beckoning Pages. So I'm going to link both of her Instagrams down below if you want to check her out if you're a reader. So we did a little book swap, and she sent me this one that was on my to be read list. And honestly, I don't really read a lot of fantasies type of books. I don't even really read a lot of romance. But this book had both of those, and I absolutely loved it. It was so good from start to finish. And the funny thing is like I said, I wanted to add a lot of journaling on this page, but I actually got carried away with the embellishments and I completely forgot to add any journaling. And I didn't realize it until I had completely finished the page. So there wasn't really anywhere to add journaling at the end of it, but I did make sure to add a spot on the next page, the one that you'll see behind this one. But if you haven't read Addie LaRue, it is about a girl who prays to the dark gods on accident. She wishes to belong to no one. And so her wish comes true, but unfortunately it has really bad circumstances because nobody can remember who she is. So every day, even when she's walking down the street, people will see her, they'll talk to her, and then 5 seconds after, if they look away, they won't remember her again. So it makes it really hard for her because her own family forgets her. She has no home. She has no place to go. She becomes a wanderer. Even when she stays at like hotels for a day, they'll consider her a thief because they don't remember selling her places like that. And yeah, so it's really hard for her to like kind of make her way in the new world. And she also doesn't age in this new life that she's received. All of that changes, however, in the present times in 2014. It goes back and forth between her accepting the curse in the 1700s in France and then her current times in 2014 in New York, leading up to the moment where she meets this boy in a bookshop who has his own sort of secret. And so I'll just leave it at that because I don't want to spoil anything, but a really good book, a little bit magical, but also I feel like the magic that was involved was almost more like mythology to me, so it made it easier for me to get into, like a little bit more believable, I think. So yeah, it is a little bit of a longer one, but it is phenomenal. And I love the audiobook for it. I went back and forth. So sometimes I would listen to the audio like on my way to work, and then I would read the book at home. But the narrator for the audio was so good. In fact, I loved the narrator so much that I went to her page on Libby and I found all of the books that she narrated. And this was another one that she did. So this one was like only a 5-hour audiobook. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to read this one too, since I really like the narrator. Honestly, I did not even read much into what this book was about. I liked the cover. I liked the narrator. I thought it sounded kind of cool, chouette. And this book ended up being so weird, like definitely one of the weirdest books that I've ever read. But I did actually enjoy this one too. I thought the writing was really beautiful, and the main character is really into music. So like there's almost like a musical sense of writing to it. Like, I don't know, it was really cool. But what it's about is this woman who has trouble getting pregnant with her husband, but eventually she does. But she keeps telling her husband that it's going to be an owl baby. And he's like, no, don't say that. You know, it's not going to be an owl baby. And she's like, no, I feel it. My owl lover came to me in the night and I had I have this owl baby inside me now. And so that's literally how it starts. And then it leads up to her like giving birth, and the baby is an owl baby who she names Chouette, although its real name, like to all of the other family members, is Charlotte. She calls it Chouette, which is also a nod to music. So yeah, it was definitely a weird one, but still very interesting. And like I said, I think it's really like a euphemism for how it is to have a baby that has some sort of like disability. I think that's kind of what the author was intending for us to get out of it. But you can see that I added a little glassine bag behind it, and that is where I'm going to put my journaling. So I'm just cutting a tag here now so that I can have something to write on. And I was debating whether or not I should decorate the front of this tag, but I thought it looked really pretty with just the rainbow colors in the glassine bag behind the book. So I just left it as it is, and I added my journaling on the back of this, on the white part. So I'm just adding a ribbon so that way it's easy to pull in and out of the pocket. And it also kind of helps to get the tag back into the glassine bag. And you'll see me here adding some journaling. One thing that was kind of cool about this book is that it actually came with like the music sheets that the main character, so she plays I can't remember if it's violin or cello. I want to say that she plays the cello. So it came with like all of the music that the author like would have played in the book. Like, so she's like kind of in a part-time band, and whenever it mentions the music pieces and like what she's playing on the page or like in the accompanying PDF, you can find all the music. So that's kind of cool. Like if you're into music, you might like this book for that reason. But yeah, I'm just finishing up this page here. Most of this page was used using the Vicky Boutin chipboard set. So you can see that down at the bottom. And now I'm just adding it into the page protector, and we are pretty much done. I'll give you a quick flip through of what I did. But yeah, I hope that you guys enjoyed watching episode 4. I have episode 5 coming for you guys soon as well. Make sure to subscribe so that you get notified whenever I post, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!